Welcome to this astrological deep dive, where we explore what it means when a planet or point falls in Aries, or the first house. These placements carry bold, fiery energy, the kind that initiates, leads, and acts on instinct. Whether it's the Moon, Venus, Mars, or even Pluto, when they land in Aries or the first house, the themes of identity, courage, and self-direction take center stage. The first house is the mask we wear, the way we face life, and the raw essence of who we are. Aries, ruled by Mars, is the zodiac spark, the trailblazer, the warrior, the one who goes first. So when planets show up here, they don't sit quietly. They move, they push, they ignite. In this series, we'll break down each placement, what it means for your personality, your path, your relationships, health, finances, and spiritual growth. We'll also look at how these placements show up in psychic readings, using astrology dice, giving you insight into the messages your soul might be receiving right now. Whether you're here for self-discovery or just a deeper understanding of the chart, you're in the right place. Let's begin where it all starts, the self. Today we're stepping into the realm of radiant selfhood, the sun in Aries or in the first house. This is solar fire meeting cardinal spark. The sun represents identity, will, and life force. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, ruled by Mars, all drive, action, and unfiltered instinct. And the first house, that's the face you show the world. Together, this combination creates a blazing presence that doesn't ask to be noticed. It simply is. Imagine the rising sun breaking through the clouds. Bold, undeniable, full of momentum. That's the energy we're working with here. It's the signature of someone who is here to lead their own life. There's no waiting in the wings. No background roles. This is a main character placement. In terms of personality, Sun in Aries or the first house brings courage, competitiveness, and raw vitality. You're often the first to speak up, the first to try something new, and the first to walk away if something doesn't sit right. Independence is key. You define your path, not because you dislike company, but because you need to feel in control of your direction. In career, this placement favours roles where initiative and personal vision matter. Entrepreneurs, trailblazers, performers, athletes, anyone who thrives when the spotlight is on and pressure is high. Leadership comes naturally, though learning to collaborate and consider others' input can be a lifelong lesson. In relationships, there's intense warmth and loyalty, but also a strong need for autonomy. You love with your whole being, but you won't be controlled. Affection is expressed through action, doing things, solving problems, defending the people you care about. But emotional patience may be tested when things feel too slow or unclear. Health-wise, Aries rules the head, so headaches, fevers, and stress from overexertion can be common. You likely have high energy, but burning out is a risk if you don't pace yourself. Movement is essential, not just for fitness, but to keep your inner fire from turning to frustration. Financially, this is a placement that likes to act quickly, sometimes impulsively. Confidence can lead to big gains, but also bold risks. It's helpful to balance gut instinct with strategic planning, especially when making long-term financial commitments. Now, when the sun in Aries or the first house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a powerful message about stepping into your light. It says, own your space, assert yourself. Don't wait to be chosen, choose yourself. This is a cosmic green light for bold self-expression and new beginnings. It also speaks to identity. Who are you becoming? What part of your true self have you kept hidden, waiting for approval? This energy doesn't seek permission, it seeks authenticity. So ask yourself, where am I holding back my brilliance? What would it mean to show up as I truly am without shrinking, softening, or apologizing? Because the sun in Aries doesn't follow, it leads, and its light is never meant to be dimmed. We're looking at a striking placement today. Mercury in Aries in the first house. Bold, fast, and fiercely direct. This is a mind that doesn't wait for permission. Mercury rules communication, thinking, and perception. And in fiery Aries, placed in the very first house of identity and action, this energy becomes sharp, instinctive, and immediate. Picture someone with a sword for a tongue, quick to respond, always ready to cut through confusion with clarity. Speech is direct, opinions are strong, and there's little tolerance for dithering. This isn't about subtlety, it's about urgency. Ideas come fast, and so do decisions. In day-to-day life, This placement fuels confidence in thought and expression. There's a pioneering edge to how you approach problems, preferring to take the lead, to act first and analyse later. Whether it's starting a business, launching a project, or making a life choice, hesitation isn't in your vocabulary. In career, this placement often shines in leadership, entrepreneurship, sales, or anywhere quick thinking is an asset. It's the mind of a strategist, a motivator, a fire starter. You may find you're drawn to high-pressure environments where instinct and intellect combine, places where your quick reactions and bold ideas stand out. Relationships can be dynamic, even volatile, with Mercury in Aries. You speak your mind, perhaps before thinking it through, which can be refreshing, but sometimes jarring. Honesty is prized, but so is timing. Learning when to listen is just as important as speaking up. Arguments may flare quickly, but so too does forgiveness. You rarely hold a grudge. When it comes to health, the mental and physical are deeply connected. Mental stress tends to show up physically, especially through headaches or burnout. This placement benefits from activities that burn off mental energy, sports, debates, fast-paced tasks. A clear mind comes from movement. Financially, you may be an impulsive spender, quick to act on a hunch or invest in a moment of enthusiasm. There's potential here for both bold financial wins and lessons through risk. It's important to ground decisions in a little patience, without dampening the flame of initiative. Now, if this placement comes up in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a clear sign that the querent is being asked to take action. Speak up, make the first move. Trust the instinct that's been nudging you forward. Mercury in Aries in the first house says, don't wait for life to happen to you. Start it yourself. It also points to a message or realization that's tied to identity, how you think about yourself, how you express who you are. There's something new emerging here, a voice, a vision, or a truth that needs to be claimed aloud. So ask yourself, what am I ready to say? What truth have I been holding back that needs to be set free? Because with this placement, clarity comes not from reflection alone, but from bold, fearless expression. Today we explore a placement that burns bright with passion and boldness. Venus in Aries, or in the first house. Venus is the planet of love, beauty, pleasure, and values. In Aries, or placed in the first house of self and identity, Venus swaps softness for spark. This isn't a slow dance, it's a sprint towards desire. Think of Venus in a suit of armour, fierce, magnetic, and unafraid to go after what it wants. Love becomes an adventure, attraction strikes fast. There's a fire here that doesn't wait for a perfect moment, it creates one. When Venus sits in Aries, or the first house, relationships are bold, direct, and energizing. You fall quickly, love fiercely, and may lose interest just as fast if there's no sense of challenge or excitement. There's a craving for chemistry, not just comfort. You value authenticity and bravery, someone who meets you eye to eye, not someone who plays games. In romance, you're likely to be the one who initiates. The flirt, the pursuer, the spark that gets things moving. Your charm comes from confidence, not coyness. You don't just want to be loved, you want to be wanted. In terms of career and creative life, this placement brings passion, leadership, and an eye for aesthetics that's striking rather than soft. You may be drawn to fashion, design, art, or beauty, but with a sharp edge. Venus in Aries creates rather than copies. If you work in business or performance, your natural charisma often draws people in. You shine when you're doing things your own way. In health, Venus here suggests a strong connection between emotional well-being and physical appearance. You likely feel your best when you're active, energized, and expressing yourself outwardly, whether through movement, style, or affection. Letting yourself feel good is part of staying healthy. Financially, this Venus placement can be impulsive. You're generous and quick to treat yourself or others, especially when something catches your eye. There's a live now, worry later attitude at times, which can lead to dramatic highs and lows in spending. But you're also capable of earning well, especially when motivated by passion. Now, when Venus in Aries, or the first house, appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a clear sign to follow your desires without shame or delay. It's about claiming what you find beautiful in yourself, in others, in the world, and not waiting for permission to pursue it. It may also be a nudge towards self-love. Are you valuing yourself enough? Are you chasing others' affection while forgetting your own worth? This placement reminds us, your fire is attractive. Don't dim it to make others comfortable. So ask yourself, what do I truly want? And am I brave enough to go after it? Because Venus in Aries doesn't wait for love to find them. They are the spark that sets it all alight. Today we're looking at a powerful emotional signature, the moon in Aries, or in the first house. The moon governs your inner world, emotions, instincts, memories, and how you respond to life on a feeling level. Aries, ruled by Mars, is the sign of action, courage, and directness. Place that fiery instinct in the house of self-expression and identity, and you get someone who feels first, acts fast, and thinks later. This placement creates an emotional life that's immediate and intense. You don't just feel things, you live them in real time with little filtering. Joy bursts out as enthusiasm, anger arrives like a spark, and hurt is often masked by frustration or defensiveness. You might not dwell on emotions for long, but in the moment they come on strong. People with this placement often appear bold, energetic, and even fearless, but underneath, there's a vulnerable side that doesn't always like to be seen. You may feel a deep need to prove yourself, to show strength even when you're not feeling it. This can make it hard to slow down, pause, or admit when you need comfort or care. In relationships, this moon seeks independence and honesty. You're loyal and protective, but not likely to enjoy emotional games or drawn-out conversations about feelings. You want connection that's real, fast-moving and passionate, someone who gets you without you having to explain too much. When hurt, you may retreat quickly or lash out before understanding what you're truly feeling. In career and life direction, this placement can bring strong drive and leadership ability. You thrive when you're able to work on your own terms, in your own style. Emotional satisfaction often comes from personal success, from initiating projects, or helping others find courage through your example. When it comes to health, there can be a tendency to bottle up stress until it bursts. Headaches, tension in the neck and shoulders, or sudden bouts of exhaustion may be signs that you're running too hot for too long. Movement is your medicine. Exercise, creative outlets, or anything that lets feelings move through you rather than build up. Financially, emotional impulses can influence spending. You might shop when you're upset, or leap into financial decisions out of a need for control or immediate change. Creating a system that balances freedom with stability can be very helpful. Now, if the moon in Aries, or the first house, comes up in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it points to a time of emotional activation. Your instincts are speaking louder than usual. Trust your gut, but take a breath before reacting. This placement says, honor what you feel, but don't let it drive you off course. It also encourages emotional courage. Are you avoiding vulnerability by charging ahead? Are you letting your emotions be seen, or just your reactions? So ask yourself, what am I really feeling, and what would happen if I let it be known? Because the moon in Aries teaches that feelings don't make you weak, they're fuel, and when you honor them with honesty, they become strength. Today we're tuning into one of the most important placements in karmic astrology, the North Node in Aries, or in the first house. The North Node points to your soul's direction in this lifetime, the qualities you're here to develop, even if they feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable at first. Aries in the first house are about identity, courage, independence, and self-assertion. So when the North Node lands here, your path is about becoming you, fully, unapologetically, and on your own terms. This isn't an easy journey. It often begins with patterns tied to the opposite sign, Libra or the seventh house, where your past comfort zone lies. In previous lifetimes, or earlier in this life, you may have focused heavily on others, seeking approval, prioritizing harmony, relying on partnership, or shaping yourself to fit in. But now, the path leads inward, North Node in Aries. or the first house is a call to step out of the background and learn how to act independently. It's about putting your needs first, not selfishly, but authentically. You're here to discover your strength, your fire, and your voice. That may involve standing alone, making bold decisions, or even confronting fears around conflict or rejection. In relationships, this placement can bring deep lessons about balance. You're learning not to lose yourself in others, to hold your own center, and to love without dependency. There may be karmic connections where you're tested. Do you choose peace at the cost of truth? Do you compromise too much? Or are you finally ready to say, this is who I am? In your career and ambitions, the soul wants leadership. You're meant to initiate, to create, to take risks. It's not about following someone else's dream. It's about finding yours. That might mean forging your own path, leaving behind what feels safe, or standing up for something no one else sees yet. Emotionally and spiritually, the growth comes through courage. This placement often brings challenges that push you to assert your will, to make choices for yourself, and to stop waiting for permission. The more you embrace discomfort, the more you evolve. Health-wise, there may be a connection between vitality and self-expression. Suppressing your desires or over-accommodating others could drain your energy. Movement, strength building, or solo physical activities can be incredibly nourishing. Your body is one of your guides here. Financially, independence is key. You're learning how to support yourself on your own terms, and that may mean taking the leap into self-employment, entrepreneurship, or financial autonomy. When the North Node in Aries, or the first house appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a potent karmic nudge. You're being asked to step forward, to stop playing small, to trust your instincts, even if they go against what others want or expect. So ask yourself, where am I being called to lead? What truth about myself am I ready to live out loud? Because this path isn't about pleasing others. It's about becoming you, and that's the bravest thing of all. Today we turn our attention to the past, specifically the South Node in Aries, or in the first house. In astrology, the South Node represents your karmic history, the qualities, patterns, and habits you've already mastered. It's where you feel comfortable, but also where growth can become stuck. When placed in Aries or the first house, the soul comes into this life with a strong sense of self, independent, assertive, and often used to going it alone. This isn't a bad thing. You likely have a natural confidence, quick instincts, and an ability to take the lead without hesitation. You know how to survive, how to act, how to fight your own battles. You've done it all before, but in this life, it's not where your soul is meant to stay. The challenge, you're being asked to shift toward the opposite energy, Libra in the 7th house, where connection, cooperation, and shared growth live. You're here to learn how to work with others, to consider the needs of those around you, and to soften your edges without losing your core. In relationships, South Node in Aries, or the first house can manifest as independence to a fault. You may resist vulnerability, find it difficult to compromise, or instinctively choose solitude over teamwork. In the past, you may have had to rely only on yourself, but now you're learning that true strength can also come from connection. This doesn't mean giving up your power, it means learning how to share it. Not every decision needs to be yours alone. Not every step forward requires a solo journey. The more you open to genuine partnership, romantic, professional, or spiritual, the more your soul expands. In career and daily life, you may feel most comfortable when in control, leading projects or carving your own path. But the growth often comes through collaboration, listening to feedback, or learning to appreciate other perspectives. You're not here to dominate, you're here to cooperate with grace. Emotionally, this South Node suggests a tendency to react quickly, to protect yourself first, and to sometimes miss the emotional undercurrents of a situation. Slowing down, tuning into others, and developing emotional diplomacy are part of the evolutionary work. Health-wise, you may burn hot, mentally and physically, and be prone to stress or overexertion. Sharing burdens, asking for help, and making space for balance are key to your well-being. Financially, you're likely to be independent with money and resourceful in a crisis. But you're learning that wealth doesn't just mean self-sufficiency. It also means harmony, fairness, and mutual support. When the South Node in Aries, or the first house, shows up in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a reminder that your strength isn't in question, but your evolution depends on connection. It may be time to let go of lone wolf tendencies, old defenses, or a need to always be right. So ask yourself, where am I still trying to do it all alone? What could change if I let someone in? Because this lifetime isn't about fighting, it's about relating. And sometimes real courage means reaching out instead of charging ahead. Today we enter the domain of pure drive, Mars in Aries, or in the first house. Mars is the planet of action, desire, aggression, and willpower. Aries is its natural home, bold, instinctive, and fearless. The first house is the stage of identity, how you present yourself to the world. Put these together and you get someone who doesn't ask if they should act. They already have. This is raw, undiluted Mars energy, fast to anger, faster to forgive, and always looking for the next challenge. You don't wait for life to hand you an opportunity. You carve one out with fire in your belly. Assertiveness comes naturally, and competition can feel like a game you're built to win. With Mars here, physical energy runs high. Movement is vital. You're likely drawn to sport, combat, or physical activity that lets you release tension and claim space. There's a restlessness to this placement. Stillness can feel like stagnation, and routine can quickly become a cage. In relationships, you approach desire and attraction with boldness. You go after who and what you want, often without hesitation. There's passion, heat, and intensity. But patience may not be your strong suit. You need connection that's active, exciting, and alive. Anything that feels too passive or emotionally slow might wear thin quickly. In your career, this placement thrives where independence and leadership are encouraged. You may be self-employed, in charge, or constantly pushing for innovation. The need to move things forward is deep-rooted. You're not afraid of a challenge. In fact, you tend to do your best when others doubt you. Health-wise, this is a physically strong placement, but one that needs regular outlets. Repressed frustration or idle energy can lead to accidents, inflammation, or outbursts. You may be prone to injuries around the head or face, especially if you don't pause before jumping into action. Fast reaction times can be a gift, but slowing down occasionally is a form of strength too. Financially, Mars in Aries, or the first house, can bring bold risks and fast moves. You're not afraid to spend if you believe in something, and you'd rather invest in action than sit on resources. While this can lead to breakthroughs, it can also bring financial instability, if not paired with longer-term strategy. If Mars in Aries or the first house comes up in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to act. Whatever's been brewing inside you, a decision, a confrontation, a project, the time to wait is over. This energy demands forward motion. It also points to issues of identity. Are you stepping into your power or letting it simmer beneath the surface? So ask yourself, what am I ready to fight for? What would happen if I stopped hesitating? Because Mars in Aries doesn't do half measures. It leaps, it burns, it leads. And its lesson is simple. Move with purpose. The fire is already yours. Today we look at a placement full of momentum, expansion, and bold beginnings. Jupiter in Aries, or in the first house. Jupiter is the planet of growth, luck, wisdom, and belief. Aries, ruled by Mars, is the first sign of the zodiac. Action-oriented, confident, and pioneering. Place Jupiter here, and you get someone who thrives on movement, thrives on risk, and grows through doing. This is the adventurer, the trailblazer, the one who says yes before thinking too long about the consequences. There's faith in your instincts, belief in your own drive, and a strong sense that life rewards the brave. With Jupiter in Aries or the first house, your path opens up when you take action, not when you wait for conditions to be perfect. Your personality is lightly bold, optimistic, and magnetic. You tend to make an impression, often as someone who's inspiring, self-assured, and ready to take the lead. You believe in forging your own way, and others may look to you for courage or direction. In career and ambitions, you may find success in roles that require initiative, risk-taking, or innovation. You're not here to repeat what's been done. You're here to push boundaries. Jupiter here brings luck through bravery, and doors tend to open when you follow your gut, not the rule book. You might excel in leadership, entrepreneurship, or anywhere a strong sense of purpose drives the work forward. In relationships, this placement can bring a need for freedom and individuality. You're generous with affection, but may resist anything that feels too dependent or restrictive. There's a fiery romanticism here. Love should feel exciting, honest, and full of potential. You likely grow most through partners who support your independence and encourage your vision. In terms of health, Jupiter in Aries, or the first house, usually indicates strong vitality, high energy, and a body that responds well to movement. But excess can be an issue. Overdoing things, ignoring the body's need for rest, or rushing into physical risks. Moderation and pacing are important, especially when your enthusiasm overrides caution. Financially, there can be big wins and big risks. Jupiter here encourages bold investment, spontaneous purchases, and belief in future rewards. Trusting your instincts can pay off, but so can taking a step back to consider the long-term picture. When Jupiter in Aries, or the first house, appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it signals a time of personal expansion. You're being encouraged to act with faith, to start the thing you've been holding back on, to take the leap. There's luck in motion right now. It's also a reminder that your growth isn't passive. It's fueled by your willingness to lead, to take risks, and to believe in your own potential. The more you step into yourself, the more the universe responds. So ask yourself, what would I do if I truly believed I couldn't fail? Because Jupiter in Aries teaches this simple truth. Fortune favours the bold, and your next great chapter begins the moment you start. Today we enter more serious terrain, Saturn in Aries, or in the first house. Saturn is the planet of discipline, structure, responsibility, and long-term growth. Aries, ruled by Mars, is bold, impulsive, and action-driven. The first house deals with identity, self-expression, and how you face the world. When Saturn lands here, it brings a powerful lesson: how to channel fire into focused force. This placement can feel like having one foot on the accelerator and the other on the brake. Aries wants to rush in. Saturn wants to proceed with caution. Early in life, this might show up as hesitation around asserting yourself. There can be fear around being too much, too bold, too fast, or a pressure to prove your worth through sheer effort. Saturn in Aries, or the first house, often creates people who seem strong and composed on the outside, but who carry a quiet inner weight. You may feel like you have to earn your right to take up space, to lead, to act. There's often a deep need to feel capable and respected, but also a fear of failure that can hold you back. In relationships, you might be guarded at first, slow to trust or reveal vulnerability. You take loyalty and commitment seriously and expect the same in return. While you can be fiercely independent, you're also learning how to soften control and allow connection without fear of losing authority or identity. In your career and ambitions, this placement is about slow, steady achievement. You may face delays, challenges, or feel like you're always having to prove yourself. But this pressure creates resilience. You become someone others trust, not because of flash or flair, but because you've earned your strength through experience. Saturn in Aries teaches leadership through responsibility. You're not here to lead from ego, you're here to lead through example. Long-term success comes when you act with integrity, patience, and courage that's tempered, not reckless. Health-wise, this placement can bring issues with physical tension, fatigue, or burnout if you're always pushing through. Learning to pace yourself, set realistic goals, and release pressure to perform is key. Movement is still important, but so is rest and sustainable self-care. Financially, you're likely cautious and strategic, perhaps even frugal. Money isn't about pleasure, it's about security, control, and self-respect. You may take time to build wealth, but you build it well. If Saturn in Aries, or the first house, appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a sign to take yourself seriously. Not with fear, but with purpose. It's a time to commit, to mature, to own your path with clarity. You're being asked to stop second-guessing and start building, even if it's slow, even if it's hard. So ask yourself, where do I need to take responsibility for my identity? What fear is holding me back from taking the lead? Because Saturn in Aries offers real power, not the flashy kind, but the kind that stands tall after the fire has burned, the kind that lasts. Today we explore a placement that crackles with originality and rebellion, Uranus in Aries, or in the first house. Uranus is the planet of sudden change, awakening, disruption, and innovation. Aries is bold, direct, and fearless. The first house represents identity, appearance, and how you enter the world. When Uranus lands here, you get someone who refuses to be defined by anyone but themselves. This is the mark of the rebel individualist, someone who's not here to blend in, follow rules, or do things the way they've always been done. You're here to break the mold, and you usually do, simply by being yourself. There's a sense of electricity around you, an unpredictability that can be both exciting and confronting to others. With Uranus in Aries, or the first house, you may have experienced a strong sense of difference from early on. Perhaps you felt you didn't fit in, or found yourself resisting authority, tradition, or expectation. Independence is absolutely crucial. You need freedom to act, think, and be on your terms. In relationships, this placement brings intensity and unpredictability. You're not likely to settle into routine dynamics or traditional roles. You value partners who honour your autonomy and respect your space. While you're capable of deep connection, you need it to be alive, evolving, and never controlling. In career, Uranus here favours innovation, tech, activism, invention, and anything that challenges the status quo. You're not afraid to take a new route or question existing systems. You might be drawn to startups, self-employment, or unconventional roles that allow for creative freedom. You thrive in environments where change is the norm. Your personality can be magnetic, even if polarizing. You might be known for your unique style, sharp opinions, or disruptive ideas. People may not always understand you, but they rarely forget you. Health-wise, this placement can bring sudden bursts of energy or unexpected health shifts. Nervous tension or overstimulation can be issues, especially if your life lacks grounding routines. Finding balance between excitement and stability is key to long-term wellness. Financially, you may experience ups and downs. Uranus brings fluctuations, sudden gains, surprises, and occasionally disruptive losses. Embracing financial flexibility and developing resilience to change will serve you well. When Uranus in Aries, or the first house, comes up in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it signals a time of personal revolution. You're being called to liberate yourself, to make a bold shift, embrace your uniqueness, or take a radical step forward. It's also a reminder that real growth isn't always comfortable. Change may be sudden, but it's also necessary. Something about how you see yourself, or how you allow yourself to be seen, is ready to evolve. So ask yourself, where am I still playing by rules that no longer fit me? What bold truth am I ready to live? Because Uranus in Aries doesn't wait for permission. It awakens, it disrupts, and it sets the self free. Today we dive into a mysterious and dream-charged placement, Neptune in Aries, or in the first house. Neptune is the planet of dreams, illusion, spirituality, and intuition. Aries is bold, action-driven, and self-focused. The first house represents the self, identity, and how you move through the world. This combination is rare and intriguing. It brings together the mystical with the martial, the dreamer with the warrior. Neptune in Aries, or the first house, can create a deeply visionary person, someone whose sense of self is fused with imagination, spiritual purpose, or a feeling of being called towards something larger than life. There's often an air of mystery or softness around the outer personality, not because the fire is missing, but because it burns in unusual, ethereal ways. You might not come across as typically Aries, all sharp edges and aggression, but there's still power here. It's just subtler. You might move with quiet intensity or pursue bold dreams in unconventional ways. Your strength often lies in inspiration rather than confrontation. With this placement, there may be periods of confusion about who you are or what your purpose is. The self can feel like a moving target. Boundaries may be thin between you and others, between what's real and what's imagined. But this sensitivity is also your gift. You pick up on energies others miss. Your instincts can lead you toward people, places, or missions that are deeply meaningful. In relationships, Neptune here can bring idealism and deep romantic yearning. You may fall quickly into infatuation or project your dreams onto others, only to later feel disillusioned. You're learning to see people clearly, and not just through the lens of who you hope they are. At your best, you bring deep empathy, magic, and devotion into your connections. In career and creativity, you may be drawn to roles that involve healing, art, spirituality, music, film, or activism. You want your work to mean something, to connect with the soul. You may struggle in highly structured or corporate environments unless you're given creative freedom and space to dream. Health-wise, Neptune in the first house can make you physically sensitive to foods, medicines, environments, and energies. Grounding practices, hydration, rest, and emotional clarity are essential. Avoid escapist habits or substances that dull your natural intuition. Financially, this placement benefits from inspiration, but needs structure. You may have idealistic or vague ideas about money. Creating clear goals and boundaries around finances can help avoid instability. When Neptune in Aries, or the first house, appears in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message to trust your vision, but grounded in reality. This is a moment for intuitive action, guided by soul rather than ego. You're being asked to align your identity with your dreams, to take spiritual or creative insight and do something with it. So ask yourself, what dream lives inside me that I've been afraid to act on? What truth about who I am wants to emerge now? Because Neptune in Aries teaches us that action can be sacred, and that sometimes the boldest thing you can do is believe. Today we step into the realm of deep transformation. Pluto in Aries, or in the first house. Pluto is the planet of power, death and rebirth, intensity, and the hidden forces that shape us. Aries, ruled by Mars, is bold, impulsive, and initiatory. The first house represents identity, appearance, and how we engage with life. When Pluto lands here, it creates a personality that's undeniably potent and often profoundly transformative. This is not a gentle placement. Pluto in Aries, or the first house, brings fierce self-awareness and an unrelenting drive to evolve. You may go through major identity shifts in your lifetime, shedding old versions of yourself again and again. It's not unusual for others to say you've reinvented yourself completely, sometimes more than once. There's intensity in your presence. Even when silent, you're rarely overlooked. People may sense your strength, your edge, or your ability to see through pretense. You're likely to have a powerful effect on others, for better or worse, and your challenge is to use that influence with integrity. This placement can indicate a life that begins with survival instincts at the forefront. You may have faced power struggles, control issues, or early experiences that forced you to grow up fast. But from these trials comes inner strength. Your journey is about learning to wield personal power without domination or destruction. In relationships, Pluto here brings passion, depth, and the potential for intensity or obsession. You crave real connection. Surface level won't do, but you may also need to unlearn patterns of control, jealousy, or emotional power games. True intimacy comes when vulnerability replaces control. In career, you're a force of will. You can rise to positions of leadership, transformation, or influence. You're well suited to roles involving psychology, crisis work, reform, research, or anything that requires uncovering the truth and creating change. Your determination is unmatched. Once committed, you do not quit. Health-wise, Pluto here can bring extremes. You may push your body to its limits or experience regeneration after major challenges. You might be fascinated by healing, transformation, or taboo subjects relating to the body. Pay attention to the signals of burnout or repression. What's unexpressed may manifest physically. Financially, you may be driven to create self-sufficiency, wealth, or resource control, but be wary of letting fear or control dynamics dominate your approach. Pluto brings power, but with it comes responsibility. When Pluto in Aries, or the first house, shows up in an astrology dice roll during a psychic reading, it's a message of profound personal transformation. Something in your identity is ready to be released, reclaimed, or reborn. Power is being offered, but it must be used consciously. It's also a reminder that real strength doesn't come from force alone. It comes from facing your shadow, owning your truth, and choosing growth over control. So ask yourself, what part of me is dying so that something greater can rise? Where am I being called to transform, not just act? Because Pluto in Aries doesn't play small. It burns down the false self to reveal the soul beneath. And that's where your true power lies.